that's irrational fear. So then we have rational fears like the sliding doors, people, other dogs. Those might be a little bit different because those are usually, well, people and other animals, we can't control those things. So if you're trying to get your dog over being afraid of people, you've got to be conscious. And it's the same as getting up to the stroller. If you know that 10 feet away you're okay, start there. So, maybe go to a park and just kind of walk along the outskirts. Test the boundaries safely where your dog is calm. Don't just allow people to force their way in and love the fear away. That's not going to happen. With like the sliding doors.
Yeah.
At PetSmart or whatever. How do you get your dog through that?
Yes.
You can't just send 10 feet away and hope that they eventually get over it. You
Yeah,
kind of have to push them.
Yeah, you got to push them a little bit. So, you got to...
Gently.
Don't shove them, but coax them.
Yeah. There's the word I wanted.
To the door.
That's the word I wanted. Just drag them through.
But yeah,
just chuck them out and drag them through.
Help them
That'll
out.
Work. That'll work.
So.
And actually, we kind of grazed over that, how forcing a dog through a fearful situation will typically make that worse. So that's important to know too. That's why I kind of got onto him about saying my friends pushed me in the pool. I just don't want anybody to think that you need to force your dog through fear. That's not how it works.
Don't. If you see your dog afraid of something, most of the time we're talking about something that we don't want the dog biting. So other dogs or people. If your dog is showing signs that it's afraid of a person, the worst thing you can do is pick your dog up and shove it into the other person's face and say, "Oh, it's okay," and shove your dog towards a person if it's scared of other people. Or, I see people all the time dragging their dog up to meet another dog, and the dog's like,
I don't want to,
trying to break its neck to get out of the stupid collar because it's scared of the other dog. That's not the way that you do that. Okay, that's how you get bit, or you get another dog bit, or you end up breaking up a dog fight or something like that. Always advocate for your dog, help them out, coax them through it.
And the other thing too is people need to understand, and we're gonna get into a little bit more on how to manage these kinds of things. But people need to understand that if you have a dog that is very fearful and very reactive towards people, towards dogs, irrational fears tend to be easier for dogs to get over, I think, than the more rational ones, like people, new places, new environments. And environments in general, the noises, the things that you can't control. So it's an uncontrolled environment. It takes time. But also too, don't think that, we've been working at this for 6 months, everything's fine, and now I don't have to be vigilant anymore. I don't have to be alert. I don't have to pay attention. The second that you get comfortable, your dog could revert back. So it's something you're going to be managing for a lifetime. It's not something that you just snuff out, it's gone, it's fixed, poof, bye. Yeah, sure, I can fix a dog that's afraid of brooms to not be afraid of brooms. It's an irrational fear.
Yeah, so, a lot of times when we're talking about genetically fearful and reactive dogs, it's something that you got to stay on top of. So a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that their dog is over their fear of whatever, and so they stop working on it. And then typically what happens is we work with a dog, we get them over their fear of whatever, we'll say brooms, and so then some people will think, okay, well, I got my dog over that, and then they'll put the broom up and the dog never sees a broom again for 6 months. And then get the broom out and start sweeping the floor one day. The dog's hanging out in the same room with you while you're sweeping the floor, and all of a sudden the dog's like, "Oh my gosh, there's a broom again!" Right? So,
but broom should be something you use every day. So once you get them past it, But being out in the world, going to Petco, going to parks and walking past people, that's not something people do every day.
Right.
So you have a lot of lapse in between. And again, like he was saying with the broom, if they hadn't seen it in 6 months, guess what? You might have to start over. You might not end where you left off because all this time has lapsed. And all this time for your dog to forget all these experiences that they live to tell about. We
see this a lot too with people that want to try to punish a dog for being what they think is aggressive. So dogs that bark and lunge at things in an effort to create distance. So some people will correct their dog for doing that, which suppresses that behavior. And then they think, okay, cool, I got my dog over it. Like, I stopped my dog from barking and lunging at people that it doesn't know. And life's good for a few months, and then all of a sudden you're walking down the street and your dog lunges and bites somebody that got too close. So it's, it's usually a genetic thing that we have to stay on top of and we have to constantly work at. Or if we don't, then the dog regresses and, 6 months down the road, we're back to square one again.
Well, and to add to that, you can correct the response that your dog gave. So the dog's reaction was to bark and maybe lunge at somebody. Sure, you can correct that. You're going to suppress that reaction, but you've not actually conquered the fear behind it.
Right.
So really, you're just putting a Band-Aid on it. You're not actually you're not helping your dog become more confident. You're not helping them get over any of these fears. All you're doing is telling them, that's fine that you're afraid, but you're not allowed to bark and growl. So your dog's still afraid. So running into a stranger on the street and maybe you're walking your dog and you're off guard, the dog gets away with it. Or maybe they find something else to do since they're not allowed to do that.
So we see this, what she's talking about a lot too in people, that we don't look at things from the dog's perspective. So she mentioned kind of letting our guard down, which happens a lot if, let's say our neighbor is walking down the street and they don't hang out outside a whole lot. Me as a person, if I'm out walking my dog, I may know my neighbor very well. So to me, my neighbor's not a stranger. To my dog, on the other hand, maybe he's never seen my neighbor before. So to my dog, my neighbor is a stranger. So we got to think about things kind of from the dog's perspective, not so much our perspective. And a lot of people fall short at that. They don't think about, how does my dog see the world? They think about like how I see the world, and my dog's just kind of along for the ride.
Very much so. So how do we, I guess we gotta go to page 2.
Yeah.
So now, some of the signs of a fearful dog, they might vocalize, they might back up, they might try to hide. I've seen dogs actually tremble and urinate.
Yep.
They'll cower their head. Sometimes their eyes will get real wide. Sometimes they'll try to completely just ignore, like, if I don't see it, it's not there.
Yep.
So those are some pretty clear signs of a fearful dog. So as an owner, what should you do and not do when you recognize the signs of fear in your dog? Number 1, don't coddle them. That's a very human response. If our children are scared, we just hold their hand. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we offer, affection as a way to comfort them and get them through it. If that's not how dogs operate, that's not going to work. But then on the other hand, you also can't just force them through it. So a lot of people don't realize that whatever state of mind the dog is in, whatever action you take, you're in one way or another reinforcing the fear or helping them get through it. So if your response is to go in and love on the dog and kissy, everything's okay, you're basically telling the dog that, yeah, I'm afraid and this is great. Like, mom's glad that I'm, now I'm gonna go take care of this. And they might take it to a whole nother level. You're reinforcing the fear is what I'm trying to say. And then if you force them into a situation, like you brought up about just picking up your dog and handing it to somebody, that's going to escalate the fear even more from there.
Right.
And we also don't want to just shove food in their face in a fearful state and say, everything's okay. You get all these treats for being around this thing that you're terrified of. You're still trembling. You just peed on yourself. I'm going to keep feeding you in hopes that you're going to associate this scary thing as something good. That's not how that works.
Yeah, so a lot of times people think that if we reward the dog or if we give the dog food or attention, while it's afraid of something, that we're going to magically make the dog not afraid of that thing anymore. So going back to me and my tarantulas, if there's a tarantula on the table right here next to me, and Desi's handing me $100 bills the entire time, I may sit here and tolerate that tarantula because I'm getting rich off of doing that, right? I'm getting something out of it.
But if it jumps on him, he's going to scream like a girl.
But I'm still going to be scared of it. And as soon as she stops paying me,
Jeremy's out.
Woo, okay, cool. I got $600 off of that, but now I'm moving away from the tarantula because I'm still scared of it.
That's all the money I buy. I'm gone.
So when we're evaluating dogs, when we're doing behavior tests on dogs, and we're evaluating the dog's temperament, like there's a reason that we don't use a lot of food to kind of get the dog over behaviors, because it really doesn't get them over the behavior. It kind of gives us like
it's
false
a bribery.
positive. Yeah. We're bribing the dog to basically deal with something that they're afraid of. But then as soon as the food's gone or the attention or whatever's gone, then the dog's bam right back to, okay, now I'm afraid again.
Yep, exactly.